Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced by a British biased bloke with a massive Swede full of very questionable wheel knowledge. Broadcast live on YouTube and after the fact on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have a good old natter about each and every Grand Prix of the season. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. We're back after what feels like an absolute age. Let's talk about some Formula 1. My name's Tommo. Hello everyone. Welcome everyone in the live chat, of course, on YouTube. Francine, Road Rage, Kev, Largeman, Femke, Jesper, Helita, Doha, Rainer, Daniel, James, Laddie, Leslie, and the rest of you. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of that good stuff. Round 13, second half of the season is kicking off. We did my mid-season report. I don't know. I feel like there was an exceptional amount of crying in the comments about my mid-season driver ratings, okay? I don't know. I feel like there's always flack, but that felt extra. But, you know, maybe I've got no wheel knowledge. But if you're here, you must think there is some semblance of knowledge buried deep in this brain. Maybe this is why we've got the hat here to protect the wheel knowledge from any intruders. Hope you're all well. We're in Belgium this weekend. I am absolutely buzzing for it. Round 13 around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Simply lovely, lovely jubbly. Noseman Gaming said they just threw up, which I hope you're all right. I hope that's a throw up of excitement and not a medical emergency. If it is, then Noseman, please seek out some support on that one, okay? Appreciate you all taking the time. It's good to be back live. Although we have to briefly address, don't we, why a certain last live stream ended. Well, it didn't end. I did the live stream and then it disappeared and then now it's reappeared again, okay? Just want to keep this brief, obviously, about the Christian Horner news, which obviously is huge. We're going to talk about it today, and obviously his replacement, Laurent Mekies, his first day in the paddock as Red Bull team principal. Why did I go live? Why did it get privated? Just want to briefly cover in it. Obviously, I've always done this, right, when there's big breaking news. Remember Oscar Piastri, the Alpine leaving, Twitter, all that. When it's convenient, I will always go live on breaking news. And I was live that morning when it was announced that Christian Horner was departing Red Bull Racing, which was obviously big news to everyone. And it is big news that I will continue to cover whenever there is big news. Big news to Red Bull themselves as well. And obviously, I am working with Red Bull this year, doing the Talking Ball podcast. I've got a little clip from something that's not Talking Ball actually to show you shortly with a certain Mr. Yuki Quinn. Buzzing, what a lad. And obviously I did my stream. They asked me to take it down, which obviously was disappointing at the time, and I was very much, look, I'll do it temporarily. I know that this has kind of come out of nowhere, and you know, the whole me working with Red Bull is premeditated on me being able to continue doing what I'm doing, because I think I'm pretty, you know, some people might say I'm not. I think I'm pretty respectful. I'm pretty honest. I'm pretty raw, but also, you know, these are real people, like putting their lives on the line at the end of their sport. It's not that deep. So, yeah, obviously their reaction was to ask me to take it down, and I was like, okay, fine. And it's now back up. There was clearly no issue with the content in the stream from Red Bull's point of view. And I get it from their, you know, angle. It's a degree of knee-jerk. I understand their perspective. I've got a job to do. They've got a job to do. And yeah, it's back up now anyway. And it's, you know, it's been a kind of good stress test, because it was always, that was the thing for me working with Red Bull this year. It was always going to be, like when news, if everything's hunky-dory and all's good, then it's chill. It's easy, right? Happy days. But when things start to get a bit, you know, tasty on track or off track, news-wise, then it's going to certainly challenge things. But it's actually been kind of good. It's we've very much kind of solidified what the relationship is between me and Red Bull Racing. So yes, it is back up, just so you know. And shame to not get the viewership I would have got on that, because I got to the news early, so that would have been a good payday. But never mind. It's all worth it, because there's some very exciting stuff coming this year. Don't you worry. But I appreciate your patience as well. Obviously, discussing with Red Bull, working out situation, saying stuff publicly doesn't really help. I want to try and make it work for all parties. You know what I mean? So, and the team there are great. So it's obviously, the thing is, you got to remember, right? Christian leaving, that's huge news, like in a human organizational point of view, right? These teams, we think of them as just teams of these arbitrary, you hear 1,000+ members of staff and you don't think of it, but these are real people with real jobs. And it's, it was big news. Big news to everyone at Red Bull Racing. So yes, all good. The stream's back up and I'll continue to do what I do, how I do it. And if you like what I do, then stick around. Okay? Happy days. Bosh. Lovely, jubbly. Just wanted to address that early doors. And if the stream is lagging, by the way, give it a refresh. Apologies. Sometimes it does that, which, I don't know, everything seems fine on my end, but here we go. So, Spa-Francorchamps. Can't wait. Love this track. What an iconic venue in Stavelot in Belgium. 7 kilometres, 44 laps. And we're expecting a little bit of rain, okay? Particularly on Saturday, Sunday. Light rain. Looks like there's not going to be big downpours, but of course the weather can change. It's almost a bit of a microclimate in that part of Belgium. And yeah, that Sunday rain, it looks like the most intense rain in the weekend is Sunday around 1 p.m. based off of Google weather, but that is likely to change closer to the time. Look, if it rains, it pours around Belgium. We saw it in qualifying last year, but then in the race, we got a dry race. It's looking like it might be vice versa, but it is a sprint weekend this weekend. So we will get a race on Saturday and on Sunday. Ideally, there'll be different conditions as well, because I know a big criticism of the sprints is that it's a spoiler for the race. But of course, if you get one that's soaking and maybe one that's, a little bit damp or dry, then I don't think that's too much of a spoiler, I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. I hope not anyway. And as you can see, I've added more graphics tyre compounds. The C1, C3 and C4, that's right, there is a gap, which is the first time in a long time there's been a gap in the tyre compounds given to the team. So of course the C1 is the hardest of the 6 compounds available by Pirelli, made available by Pirelli to Formula 1 for each given weekend. So we've got the hardest C1, but then we've not got the C2 as the medium, we've got the C3 as the medium, which would usually be the soft, because you'd usually have C1, C2, C3, and then the C4 as the soft, so like a super soft. Now, the idea of this is to essentially less artificially mandate a 2-stop, basically. Now, we saw last year George made the 1-stop work to win the race until he didn't. The win was taken off him. Spoiler alert if you haven't watched the 2024 Belgian Grand Prix. And 2-stops are always preference over 1-stops. I mean, I think that's pretty fair to say. And yeah, so apparently this might help. If you've got a slightly softer compound on the softer range, then fingers crossed this makes a difference and essentially mandates a 2-stop without technically mandating a 2-stop. And it's is Spa the longest lap in terms of time on the calendar? Because you are spending 75% of it basically foot pinned to the floor, which means we could maybe see a bit of unreliability creeping around Spa. We all remember Lando, it's broken back in 2019, wasn't it? It's a lot of intensity on the old PU, this one. A lot of undulation, a lot of up and down and all. This is a big challenge for the cars. Cooling shouldn't be such an issue. I mean, it's not cold exactly. What it's saying, 21, highs of 21, highs of 21, highs of 18 on the Sunday. So it's not going to be crazy cold. However, obviously, if the rain falls, then that obviously slows the cars down and a bit less stress on the engines, but a bit more stress on the drivers because they don't want to crash. Okay, let's see. But yeah, Spa, banger. Great circuit. Not amazing for modern F1, I will say. However, I always rewatch the highlights of the previous year's race before these streams, and there were some decent little overtakes at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Oscar Piastri around the outside of Charles Leclerc was a particular highlight of mine, I would say. Monza is longer, But it's a quicker lap, isn't it? I think it's a quicker lap. Yeah, I'm excited for the Rain 2 Caspian. Let's see. So yeah, last time out, again, wet in qualifying. Max put it on pole, but took a 10-place grid drop, which wasn't it like a PU or something? And basically, from Red Bull's point of view, which does make sense, you would rather give Max that punishment around a track that he excels at, right? Because Max is great in the rain and obviously did the job in qualifying. He's fantastic around Spa as well. He's got an incredible record around Spa. In the race, it was, asking for too much ultimately. And the Mercedes boys came through. Lewis looked like he was going to have it done because everyone was two-stopping. But then George, as George often does, is like, I'm going to do something completely different. And he pulled it off until the plank failed the wear test afterwards. Or did he have too little fuel? I actually can't remember. Which one was it? It was one of the two, wasn't it? I'm sure it was. One of the two of them. But yeah, I think that I rate George for his optimism. Oh, he was too light. That was it. Sorry. Yeah, he was too light on the old. When they took the fuel sample, they didn't have. His car was underweight, basically, which was a risk by running that one stop, which the team probably didn't fully understand. Otherwise, they wouldn't have allowed him to do it. But then again, George loves a Hail Mary, doesn't he? He loves a Hail Mary, and it looked good when he was standing on top of the podium, but then it didn't look so good a couple of hours later when he got it taken off of him. So, and like a full-on disqualification as well, a full-on ban. Out you go. Sorry, mate. Lewis took the win instead ahead of Oscar Piastri. So, yeah, hopefully these compounds mandate a two-stop. But then again, if we get rain, who knows? Everything's up in the air. I'm excited. Thoughts on sprints? You know what, Aidan? I'm not sure. I don't love the idea of a sprint at Spa. I think for a sprint, you need a shorter lap. I think you need Austria for me is perfect for a sprint because it's a nice short lap. You still get, think it's only probably it'd be like 11 laps, I reckon, the sprint. It's 44 for the main race. I reckon it'll be about 11, something like that. And I didn't check, or maybe should have. If you come a cropper, if someone takes your front wing off and you've got to drive around the entire lap with damage, that is your race completely ruined. Whereas like around, a lap like Austria, all right, okay, it's still probably ruined, but, it's a bit less damaging. I just think, I think sprints should be reserved exclusively for tracks on the lower half, I would say, of distance, in my opinion. That's what I think. Is it 15? Either way, I think that's the way they should be. But I'm open to be proven wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's a banging sprint. But my expectations are not particularly high. So Bosch, quality head-to-head. Let's quickly reflect after a little bit of time off where we are looking in terms of qualifying pace relative to teammates. I'm keeping track over the course of the year in my big Google spreadsheet. And of course, the biggest gap on average is between Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda, 0.668 of a second, which hopefully Yuki can chip away at that somewhat this weekend. In fact, this is a good opportunity to flex, and again, no bias here, bias-free zone. Believe it or not, I understand if you think I'm just going to be biased now. Fine, it is what it is. Oh look, it's Yuki Tsunoda, and
thanks for the feedback. Great, beautiful engineer.
Oh, thank you. Do you tell that to all your engineers?
Sometimes. Thanks for the feedback. Great, beautiful engineer.
Beautiful engineer. That's all you need to know. Okay? The full video will be coming out. The full Oracle virtual laps, which obviously I did with Liam at the start of the year. Then obviously for obvious reasons, most of them didn't come out. So we did the China one, and I've done a bunch with Yuki, and yeah, there's more to come for the rest of the year. So That's pretty good. Hair was not looking good, Rainer. Do not lie. Hair was not looking good. But it's official. I'm a beautiful engineer. So I'll take that. Thank you, Yuki. And Yuki for pole position, win, champion. Just give him the championship. Not because he called me a beautiful engineer, okay? Then we've got Alonso ahead of Lance by 0.316. Russell ahead of Antonelli by 0.315. Gasly, Colapinto 0.274. So those top 4 teammate pairings, those are the kind of big glaring ones. And look, again, I know Gasly, Colapinto, we've not had loads of races, but given how last minute Franco's been chucked in, he's not doing a terrible job relative to Gasly in qualifying, at least. There is pace there, and I hope Alpine are patient with him. Okay, I really do. And then Hajar Lawson 0.226. It's still too much, but hopefully Liam's found something. It was a good performance in Austria from him, and I want to see him move on and progress, because Liam at one point he had such momentum, and I'd be so gutted to see it just never reappear. And then, Lindblad's being sized up. We know this. He's got a lot of potential in Formula 2 and has been heavily linked with that Red Bull seat. We know he's got a super license exemption as well. So, yeah, hopefully Liam can cook this weekend. That's what I want to see. Leclerc Hamilton 0.138, decent. Albon Science 0.124, decent, especially because it's in favour of Albon. Come on, Alex. Piastri Norris 0.098, basically a 10th advantage Oscar on average so far this season. Hulkenberg Bortoletto 0.048, half a tenth. And then Ocon Behrman, 18 thousandths of a second, basically nothing. And Max, you're right, Arvid isn't doing that great in F2. At least, well, he's not doing bad. I mean, you look at where Antonelli and Behrman were, realistically, in F2 last year. In the points, they weren't amazing. I think the teams are now so... you've got Alex Dunn with McLaren, you've got Arvid with Red Bull, you've got Bogdanovic with Ferrari. I think the teams are... It's a shame, really, but F2 is still... It's still not almost spec enough. And, I mean, you ask people in the know in F2 and they'll say, these cars are not all the same like they should be. You can get a bad team, you can get a good team as well, who really know how to maximise the package that they're giving their young drivers, because these are young drivers who don't have the experience, to feedback and to, engineer themselves out of problems. They need a bit more support from the team. So, yeah, I mean, look how well Antonelli and Behrman have, the moments they've had in F1 this year. Antonelli on pole, Behrman's put in some really good performances. Not consistently enough, but he's been there. And they were both in the, bottom... They were outside the top 10, weren't they? Both of them by the end of the year. And again, drivers miss races. Obviously Ollie missed Saudi, that he put it on pole and didn't get to exploit that. So, yeah, it is a shame with F2. I don't know what the solution is. Ultimately, the teams are going to look at the results, sure. But I think, say McLaren with Alex Dunn, for example, if he wins, amazing, that looks great. With Ollie and Antonelli finishing where they did, they're going to be looking beyond that number that's next to their name at the end of the season. They're going to be looking at everything else and making an educated decision. And you can't say that, I know Antonelli's kind of struggled, but certainly Ollie has looked, apart from some questionable mistakes, talking about that red flag Silverstone nonsense from Ollie, he's looked right at home in F1. And I think, Antonelli put it in pole almost twice in Miami. Tells you all you need to know about how good he is, his potential. So, yes, very excited to see how this will change over the course of the season. We'll kind of freeze this quali head-to-head in time, first half of the year, and then we'll keep doing it, but then let's remember this, and then we'll compare it to maybe the second half of the season as well. I think we can get some interesting head-to-head data there. Okay, so who do you reckon, chat? For all you here, who's going to close their gap up the most, kind of proportionally here? So, for example, I think that Sainz will probably close that to Albon. I expect him to. I think Antonelli will close that gap to Russell. You think Colapinto? I think Colapinto could as well. I do. I think he'll be given the time. And I think every race is going to help him out big time, right? Because he's lacking so much of experience in that Alpine environment, So I hope Tsunoda. I hope Tsunoda as well. I hope. Hopefully, with Mekies coming in now, who obviously was team principal for Racing Bulls with Yuki there, and Yuki had a great start to the season as well. We'll talk a bit more about Mekies in a bit, but I think this change benefits Yuki, in my opinion, like more than anything else, right? I think he's the one looking to gain most from this, and I hope so, because I've got a lot of love for Yuki. So we'll see. Lawson, hopefully, again, Lawson as well. Lawson needs to find, because 0.226 off of Hadjar is not good enough at the half-season point. He needs to find something. So, big pressure. So, driver standings. Let's quickly reflect on where we are 50% of the way through the season. And I would say, for Lando to only be 8 points behind Oscar Piastri, 234 to 226, is... I think Lando's fortunate to be as close as he is. I do. I think performance-wise, I think Oscar's been a good step ahead on average. However, Oscar has made his fair share. What he did in Silverstone was just unnecessary and silly, and it cost him big time in that point swing. That's a 14-point swing, right? From finishing behind Lando instead of in front of him. So, as much as Lando, I think, has rode his luck a little bit, he's kept himself in there. He's had those good weekends in Monaco was obviously a banger. Austria was decent. He's kept himself in it, and that's key, right? Oscar now needs to find his way back onto the front of the grid with a degree of consistency and hammer this home, because all the talk of him being a mentality monster, well, now's the time. Because, yes, you've had maybe some things not go your way, but also you've made some errors yourself as well. It's now time that he cooks and shows. And Lando being the chaser, in many ways, I think might play to his advantage as well. So I'm very, very, very interested to see how this one pans out. When you look at last year's race at Belgium, Lando had a very messy... the exit out that first corner, went wide onto the gravel, lost a bunch of positions, and never really recovered from that. Oscar had a very strong Spa last time out. But in the rain, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Spa and Hungary are big tracks for Oscar. Ideal places for him to rebound. You're right, Law. And obviously we've got a bit of a break after Spa. So, again, more opportunity to kind of go away and get in your own head a bit. And as much as, again, there's an assumption that Oscar's very calm. And he is very calm on the outside. But on the inside, he's going to have emotions like the next person. So... let's see. Carl, if it rains, Lando takes it, do you reckon? I mean, Lando was on that... What year was it when he was on that quality... he looked like he had pace to put it on pole. Was it 21 when... and then he had that big crash. Wasn't that when George got P2? Yeah, it was 21. There you go. Thank you, chat. Love it. Tanya, this is not the place to put your comment about disagreeing with my mid-season predictions in that video. All right, Tanya. Also, hang on, Lewis P14, that was one of the few ones where we agreed. So, hang on, you put in P14 as well, all right? Just saying. Max Verstappen, 165 points. Looks like that's too big a gap. Look, even doing what he way too big of a... Oh, we've gone down. Oh, God. Random disconnections. Fantastic. Love to see it. Let's just love it. We are back. I think you're asking too much of Max here at this point. You're asking too much of anyone other than the McLarens to win it this season. You've got to expect the McLarens to jump back in some significant way. And we know that Oscar and Lando are both getting close to the ceiling of that car's performance. So there is no good reason that the driver standings go awry for the Mercedes, the McLaren boys, should I say. So too little too late. Obviously Ferrari, we will talk about Ferrari in a minute because they have a big upgrade on the rear suspension coming for this race. And we've disconnected again, which is absolutely fantastic. And if you are here, also you can hear my desktop audio. Every time it goes out, you hear the boom, boom, boom. But I've turned that off now. Crimea River. Driver standings, Bosch, are as follows. Constructor standings, again, McLaren, it's a wrap. Obviously, it's done. And Scuderia, I still haven't added the I in Scuderia Ferrari there, but you're just going to have to accept that. I'm losing my mind. Truly bloated. I'm truly losing my mind. Red Bull, again, if Yuki can find something, then Red Bull are definitely in that fight for P2. But from what we've seen, there's nothing to suggest Laurent Mekies coming in isn't going to all of a sudden mean that Yuki can drive this car as well as Max. Of course, that's not going to happen. Hopefully, they can find something so that he's at least getting in the points. That's got to be the kind of bare minimum expectation, surely. I'm in the pocket. You lot in chat are funny. You lot in chat are too funny. But yes, the big interesting battle really is P5 down to P10, really, isn't it? So there's 40 points separating Williams in P5 with 59 to Alpine in P10 with 19. 40 points is actually not that many in the grand scheme of things, especially when you consider the chaos that can unravel, especially in the rain. And obviously Hulkenberg getting a podium in a Sauber, like Jesus, come on. Who remembers that, right? Old news, God. That's why I'm wearing a green hat in solidarity with Nico. Love it. So, yeah, and obviously this is big. Because if we're talking, we don't have a clear figure of what the amount is per position. My estimate is around 12 mil, maybe 10 million quid, based off of just reading different things and, they say that and they say that. Let's just say 10 mil, all right? So between P10 and P9, 10 mil. Between P10 and P8, 20. P10, P7, 30. P10, P6, 40. P10, P5, 50 bags. 50 milli. And to these smaller teams, that's huge. That's like a third of your cost cap. Not quite. But that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And yes, of course, sliding scale, ATR, the higher you finish, you lose out on that aerodynamic testing regulation source. But to the smaller teams, at least, I think that money is more beneficial to them than it would be otherwise, Bosch. Right, cool. Okay, so we've covered all that. Let me go back to full screen. And what we got, chat? Talk to me about news and stuff. Thumbnail, obviously new era for Red Bull Racing with Laurent Mekies in charge. So I do wonder how much of that decision to appoint Laurent is... You've looked at seen Andrea Stella come into McLaren, do a very good job. Ayo Komatsu come into Haas, seemingly do a very good job. Obviously, Alan Permain's got the promotion to Racing Bulls. These are all ex kind of engineers, strategists, technical minds who are taking these. Now, obviously, Laurent Mekies is not technically, he's acting team principal at the moment, but it's more kind of CEO. That's his role. So maybe there's someone new that comes in the future. I don't know. Maybe not. I guess this is an opportunity for Red Bull Racing if they want to change the way. Because Christian's, he was in charge of that team for over 20 years. So he would have had his ways, his methods, his kind of management structure as such. Because Dietrich very much kind of let him, entrusted Christian to run that ship and build that team into what it is today. And obviously Helmut was focused more on the young driver academy kind of things in the business, and was, I guess, Dietrich's middleman as such, because Helmut and Dietrich were close. And yeah, obviously bringing in Laurent Mekies for the moment, I imagine, is at least a stopgap. And beyond that, who knows, right? Who knows? Because it's a team with so much legacy in recent years, right? You got to remember, like, since Vettel in 2009, where Vettel was winning races in a Red Bull, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, Seb, Red Bull titles. 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, Red Bull were winning races every one of those years. 21, obviously Max won the title, and then 22, 23, 24, Max wins the title again and again and again. Max has won, a couple of races this year. They've been winning. They've been a winning team since 2009, have Red Bull Racing. Did they not win in 2015? Really? Really? Oh, wow, that's crazy. I actually didn't know. I just assumed they had. That's the year where Kvyat outscored Ricciardo. I know that much. But I wonder what was 20... Let me have a look. 2015... What was Red Bull's closest? So if that is the 1 year since 2009 that they haven't won a race, what was their closest? What was their closest result? They got P2 and P3 in Hungary, P2 in Singapore. Okay, so P2, pretty close, all right, close enough. But yeah, now it's like, boom, 2026, new engine. That's obviously, who knows how that's going to go for any team. Adrian's gone, Jonathan Wheatley's gone, Christian's gone, Rob Marshall went earlier on, and he's obviously doing bits at McLaren. Like, this is now, this is about as new era as it gets. And obviously pieces had left, and now Christian Horner's gone. It's like, it's an opportunity as much as it's like, whoa, it's a bit like, oh God. Let's hope for Red Bull this goes well, because there's a lot of change going on. And obviously Laurent coming in now is not going to change, how this engine project's going massively, right? That stuff will have been set in its ways for time now, right? I imagine Mekies's kind of sit right now is just to maximise the car that they have underneath them and get on top of because you could argue definitely that the standards haven't been quite as high as they have been in recent years in terms of around pit stops and all that kind of stuff. And obviously Wheatley was a big part of that. So does it correlate? Perhaps it does. And yeah, it's huge news. Obviously a lot of ex-Honda people, before Honda announced they were coming back, did go to Red Bull powertrains. So that there is definitely knowledge there. And there's reason to have some faith. And I think this is where it comes back to the whole Max conversation, right? Because, of course, he's still being asked about it. I've said it before, I say it again. I don't think it makes sense for Max to leave before 26, because then he can sit in the car for 26. He can maximise whatever package they give to him with the technical team, the newly-less technical team now. And perhaps for Wache and the technical team there, this is an opportunity for them to show, right, this is what we can do. And you'll see in 26, if the car's quick enough, Max will stay. If it's not quick enough, he might go. I think it'll be as simple as that. It'll be as simple as that, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think Max to Mercedes is off per se. To me, I don't think it ever was really on for 26, in my opinion. Whether they've got Christian Horner or not, I don't think that was ever going to be a 26 move. I think that was more... Because you've got to remember, like, Max is a huge athlete, the biggest, most prominent name in F1 right now because of all his recent success. And his entire F1 career is in Red Bull. Even at Toro Rosso, it's still Red Bull, right? So Max's connection to that company, his value to Red Bull is way beyond just the talent behind the wheel. he's built up that's massive, right? In the same way that Lewis was hugely of value to Mercedes and such a close bond, and obviously that's broken. It can break. Max could leave for sure. And if Max was to go to Mercedes, Mercedes would be gaining someone with a huge following, a huge intrigue and interest. And that's going to play into it. It's as much a... Toto being interested in Max is as much a business, I guess, thought process as it is a performance thought process. And the same would be said for Ian, as you say, for Aston Martin. I think Lawrence Stroll... I mean, Max literally is perfect for what Lawrence Stroll wants, because he wants a big name, doesn't he? That's why he signed Seb to replace Perez, even though Perez was cooking and brought his backing with him, his financial backing with him, that has almost guaranteed Checo a seat for a long time now. But even that wasn't good enough for Lawrence. He was like, no, I want Sebastian Vettel. I want a 4-time world champion in this car. And, that is absolutely what I'm sure Lawrence Stroll is going to be going for, because he values that very highly. And obviously the Aston Martin brand is, I've still got that 300 quid of shares, which then went down to like 30 quid. And I think it's still about 30 quid. So I don't think it's massively bounced back. But we'll see. But will Mercedes lose out in terms of marketing? Ain't no way Max is going to do all those sponsorship gigs. I think Law, I hear what you're saying. I think still Max Verstappen, with the global recognition that he has, beyond that of George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, way beyond that of George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Even if Max is not, giving himself all the time to Petronas and Ineos and all that and all these sponsorship gigs, I still think you're getting massive value from Max being affiliated with your brand. Be that Red Bull, be that Mercedes, be that Aston Martin, whoever. Regardless of whether or not is doing the sponsorship gigs. Just wearing the merch. Just walking about and being like, I drive for this team. That will bring intrigue and interest. And, a big part of that is it's really... I'm almost in some ways kind of jealous, right? Because I think it's really cool that there's a lot of British drivers on the grid, right? And obviously, if you want to grow up in any country and make it into F1, the UK is probably top of the list in terms of access to not only the teams, but karting tracks, and, the structure is there. And Europe's, closely followed as well, right? But when you've just got one driver representing your country, and a driver at Max's level as well, who's winning and at the top, and also you combine that with you Dutch, you love your sports people, you love getting behind the orange flag, and that's just a vibe. And where the audience is spread across British drivers, Silverstone's still great. You get the Lando fans, you get the Lewis fans, you get the George fans, you get the Ollie fans, you get the Alex fans, me, because he's British as well as Thai. And yeah, I just think it's kind of cool when you can really... I think that makes Max's nationality makes his brand even stronger. If there were two Dutch drivers in F1 who were like, boom, like fighting for wins, Max, and then, imagine Charles was Charles Lee space Clerk. That's pretty Dutch, right? Maybe not Charlie Lee Clerk. That's pretty Dutch. Then you're spreading that fan base across two drivers, but it's just all in on Max, and that's great. Richard for sure. Charles D. Clerk. There you go, D. Clerk. Charles De Clerk. There's so many good examples. Carol De Clerk. Yeah, that works. He's a secret Dutch boy, is our Charles. He really is. But yeah, anyway, I've massively digressed, as I always do. Let's talk predictions, shall we? Bangers and clangers, starting with the good old bangs and clangs. Who's going to win the 2025 Belgian Grand Prix? This is a sprint weekend, so I'm not talking about the sprint race here. Just focusing on who's going to win the big boy points. 25 points, lovely jubbly, on Sunday, unless we get a race that's called cut short, in which case it might be 12.5 points. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Doesn't look like it's going to be crazy rain. Chloe, if you clang Lando, I'm done. Stick around, Chloe. You'll see. So, my race winner prediction for the 2025 Belgian Grand Prix is Oscar Piastri. I think that he did very well around Spa last year. I think he's going to be hurting still from Silverstone, and he's going to carry that extra little bit of momentum and feel into this weekend. I think it's about time he was on the top step of the podium again. So I'm going for Oscar. Oscar. Oh, also, we've got Sky Glass downstairs, and there are many times in races. In fact, this happened during the 2024 Belgian Grand Prix, because I'm very sure I remember watching it at home when he did that move on the outside of Charles at the end of the Kemmel Straight, and I went, "Go on, Oscar!" And I say that quite a lot. Go on, Oscar, because I like Oscar. I like gassing Oscar up. And when I say that, the TV thinks I'm talking to it. It thinks I've said hello, Sky. How does go on, Oscar sound like hello, Sky? Have a word, Sky. Sort out your telly, all right? So I've gone Oscar Piastri, race winner. But what about you? 1,106 of you voted. Thank you for voting again. Apologies for this stream being later than usual. Went away earlier this week for my wife Hannah's birthday. We had a lovely time and just pushed things back a little bit. But all is good. So, yes, thank you for voting. Appreciate it. Usually these are on Wednesday, but today it's Thursday, but that's fine. Did I just activate yours? Aftertaste, see? Go on, Oscar. Go on, Oscar. Your race winner prediction for the 5 Belgian Grand Prix is also Oscar. 41% of the votes, 21% Lando Norris. So a pretty big difference. Is that? Yeah, it is. It is that. Yeah. So for a second I was like, did you actually say 31? And I just didn't do the number right. But yeah. So 20% of you more, 20 more percent of you think Oscar's going to win this over Lando. And Max, 15%. If it rains, I think Max got a good chance, and I guess it depends how much it rains. But even with Max's wizardry behind the wheel, I think you're asking too much. And then 7% George Russell. Can he do what he did again? Probably not. But we'll see. We will see. Banger drive. I've gone Max Verstappen. Because it's going to rain, seemingly, on Saturday and Sunday. Max is a unbelievable god around this place. Around Spa. Wet or dry. But with the rain, I'm predicting Oscar race win. But I reckon Max could be right there with him. So, we'll see. I've gone banger drive, Max Verstappen. And so have you. You copied my homework. 14% of you, though. So, actually, a very big spread of votes. 13% of you went Lewis Hamilton. 11% Chuck de Klerk, the Dutchman. And 9% of you, George Russell. So, we'll see. We are in full agreement for race winner and banger driver, which does not happen very often. Also, I'm starting to get a headache because this cap's on too tight. Ugh. But I'm not showing you my terrible hat here, so I'm going to push through. Clanger drive. I've gone with the... What's the term? It's reverse. You know, when you say something's going to happen because you don't want it to happen. And then if it happens, then whatever. I've gone with Charlie de Klerk for Clanger because Ferrari are bringing an upgrade, and I really hope it works, and I really hope it gives Charles the car to fight for wins because, my God, this guy deserves more wins. But reverse psychology, there we go. Sorry, my brain's getting too crushed by this hat to... It's as the wheel knowledge expands out of my head, the hat just stays still. I please Ferrari. This is big reverse psychology. This is big Uno reverse card. And if I'm right, then at least I get a point. So, you know. And if I'm wrong, then I'll be happy. So I can't lose. Your clanger drives Franco Colapinto, 18% of the vote. If it rains, that is going to be a tough gig for him, but we will see. Then 11% Lance Stroll, 9% Lando Norris, 8% Yuki Tsunoda. How dare you? I'm a beautiful engineer, as told by Yuki. How dare you? And then banger team, McLaren. I think it's going to be. Realistically, it's going to be McLaren. I think Oscar, Max, Lando, top 3 sounds about right. Maybe Oscar, Lando, Max. So, I mean, it's a pretty safe point. But I keep not going for McLaren and keep losing out on safe points, you know? So I need these safe points. Okay? I need these safe points. Your banger team's Ferrari. 26. But you're choosing belief. You are choosing unreverse psychology. You're just choosing psychology on this one. 26% of you think that Ferrari rear suspension upgrade is going to fix the car. Wait, what? Sorry, I just realised I've messed up something on the graphic. So yeah, you did go Ferrari top, but then you went... Yeah, okay. 18% of you went for McLaren, even though it says Ferrari as well. 26% Ferrari and 18% Ferrari. It's 26% Ferrari, 18% McLaren, 18% Mercedes, 14% Williams. Just don't read things, okay? Just don't read things. Now, thoughts on Ferrari upgrades? I hope they work. I hope I'm wrong. And I hope you're right. But if you're just jinxing, then so be it. And then clanger team, I've gone Ferrari because, again, reverse psychology. Their upgrade's going to get on the car and do nothing. It's going to make the car go back. They're going to be the worst car on the grid. They're going to be slower than... Well, I can't even say Sauber anymore because they're not even the slowest car on the grid. Who knows what the slowest car on the grid is now? It's actually impossible to say. I'm going Ferrari. Clanger team. Because their rear suspension upgrade isn't going to work. Please work. Please work. But it's not going to work. And then finally, your clanger team is Alpine, which is your default vote. I could see Gasly cooking up something. I could see Gasly cooking, but it's going to struggle. That power deficit's going to struggle. And that ERS deployment issue on that Alpine PU is going to struggle around here. So it is a fair shout. 26% of the votes, 11% Red Bull, 11% Aston, 10% Haas. Alpine, indeed. Alpine. There you go. Right, so those are your bangs and clangers. Predictions, those are mine. Let's see whose dreams come true. My only dream is that a Ferrari driver stands on the top of the podium again, because I can't. This can't keep happening. And Lewis has won 7 titles. Just Charles, please. God, I just feel so sorry for him. I feel so sorry for him. Right, okay, back to full screen. We've been live for 50 minutes. Lovely jubbly. Anything else to talk about? Ian, Bottas and Perez Cadillac 2026. That certainly would be the sensible driver pairing. You're getting a boatload of experience at Cadillac, which that team is going to need, and a boatload of pace. I think Perez, wasn't able to show his full form at Red Bull. And we are now seeing with Yuki and Liam struggling. It's Perez was doing the job he was doing. It didn't look great, but compared to what they've had so far this season, it's been a step backwards in reality, hasn't it? So yeah, I think Perez, his stock has recovered. Seeing Yuki and Liam struggle, Bottas says he was having one of his best seasons last year. Of course, he would say that, but then it's hard to show that when you've got a bad Sauber. It's now a good Sauber, and Valtteri must be like, why didn't I have this good Sauber? Which he did, actually, at the very start of his stint, didn't he, in 22? And Valtteri cooked, but then that car just... Because they had that car very light, but then as the other teams got mass off of their cars, Sauber couldn't add performance, basically. Kind of essentially how it works out. Do you think Fred's getting the boot? No. I think that would be incredibly, stupendously short-sighted from Ferrari to get rid of Freddie V. So, absolutely no. No. Do not get rid of Fred. How dare you? How dare you? Do not do it, John Elkann. Do not do it. Okay. Thoughts on Mick Schumacher coming back to F1, Mohammed? I think his time, honestly, it has been and gone. I don't think he showed enough, and by all accounts, he has had experience. He's had tryouts. He's been in simulators, and he just hasn't. My understanding is that he hasn't shown enough to get a team to entrust him. You know, the amount of shunts he had at Haas was not good, and I think a new team like Cadillac can't really afford that. They need solid pairs of hands. And Bottas and Perez aren't crash-happy drivers. They're drivers with long careers. So I hope that, I hope that's the case. And WingCap, yes, I did talk about the Horner stream at the start. I did. So feel free to rewind if you want. I've just covered why I privated my Horner live stream. It's now back up. But I talked about it then. So all good. All gravy. Right, Super Chats. Noel, thank you. And thank you, Gladiator, as well. Doohan apparently talking to Cadillac as well. Justice for Jack would love a Doohan Schumacher pairing at Cadley, youth and talent. I think that Doohan to Cadillac is a stretch, and I don't think it's something they would do. It makes sense for him to have the conversations, absolutely. If I was in Cadillac's position, I think the good thing with Checo is that because he is North American, he does, I know I've said, they want an American driver, a United States of American driver. But I think Checo brings so much support in Mexico and in the US that they may not feel compelled to be like, right, we need at least one person with an American passport, you know what I mean, in this car. So maybe Colton Herta his time doesn't come, which would be a shame because I'd love to have seen Colton get a shout. I'd love to see someone go from Indy to F1. That'd be really interesting. I think it'd be really good for both sports actually as well to see a driver go. I know we've seen Grosjean go from, and Ericsson and these guys go from F1 to Indy, but do the other way. You know, I'd love to see Colton get that shot, and Alex Palou as well. Of course, Alex Palou. But I think Perez Bottas would be a big strong lineup for sure. And I'd love to see Jack get another shot because I do think he did enough to merit it, but I wouldn't put my house on it. Thank you, Adonis, as well, for the super chat. With the FIA giving Lindblad exemptions for super license, should Cadillac get the same or better accommodations? Should they want an Indy driver? Yeah, look, Adonis, I completely agree. I think part of the reason that the FIA were willing to give concessions to Lindblad is because Lindblad is in an FIA series and is continuously been a part of the FIA series. And obviously he does have the super license points. It's just an age thing. I think Colton, in my opinion, you can say, rules are rules, all right, but they're rules that are made up by the FIA. And have a look yourselves at the FIA super license points, IndyCar relative to F3, for example. There are many positions where Indy gets less than Formula 3 for the same position. It's crazy. And if the point of a super license, if the sole point of a super license is to ensure a driver has appropriate success and has demonstrated an appropriate level of, talent to be able to drive these cars, if that was the only reason, if that was the only thing they were looking at, then Indy would be higher. But it's not, because it's not an FIA series, and the FIA bias their own series, which I guess I understand, but it is a shame, because sporting integrity is absolutely what I want first and foremost, and Colton should have got a shot when Racing Bull's Toro Rosso V-Carb, whatever they're called, wanted him back in the day. Now, I think that ship has probably sailed, unfortunately. And thank you, Mr. Hoppy. Is Piastri win prediction just vibes, or is it based on something tangible? Well, look, I think it's a prediction, so there's nothing really tangible you can go on for anyone, right? I think obviously Max has a great record around here. Oscar drove a very good race around here last year, and obviously finished second, inherited P2 after George's disqualification. Drove very well, is in a better car this year, a more competitive car this year, so why not? I think he's demonstrated in only his third year in F1 that he is absolutely capable of winning this championship. So around a track like Spa, he likes Spa. He's a particular fan of Spa. So why not? Why not? And obviously, Joe Guan Yu has been linked with that seat for a long time now. Again, do I see it happening? I don't. I think if it does happen, it's more commercially. Because, you would, ignoring any commercial interest, if you've given Bottas or Joe, even though Joe's a lot younger than Bottas, you would go Bottas. Of course you would. So, you just would. Hugo, this is your first live stream live. Welcome, Hugo. Love that. Love that. Love that. Anyone who doesn't typically get these live, welcome. Chaos. All fair in love and war. Right, I think I'm done. I think I'm about finished. Thank you all. Appreciate you all taking the time. An hour-long pre-race is longer than usual, but here we are. We've had a bit of time off. It's been good to catch up. So we have a sprint race this weekend. No plans to do a stream after the sprint. I might do if I have time, but probably not. It'll probably just be a post-race report after the Grand Prix on Sunday to talk all about the Belgian Grand Prix. I'm excited. Thank you all for joining me. Carl, Marcus, Christopher, Rayner, Max, Mohammed, Francine, Kev, Lemon, Tim, Focus Protocol, Road Rage, Jesper, Noseman, Sam, Carl, Lucas. And thank you, Gladiator, for the super chat as well. Let me quickly get that one. Fun fact, since 2020, Norris has been out-qualified or out-raced by both his teammates at Spa, except 22. And even then, Ricciardo was only a 10th off in quali. So you're saying that you don't think Lando's got a particularly good record around Spa? He was on for a good result in 2019 before the car broke, wasn't he? What was the result? Was it a podium that he was on for? Am I just completely misremembering that? That was a long time ago. Say Jagoda, silly season. Is that what you want me to say? It's a good old silly season. Love it. Was it P5? Yeah, P5 sounds right, Christopher. Yeah, Panzer's saying P5 as well. I think it was P5. Polish Eddie. Been a while. How you doing? Thank you for coming. I'm literally just finishing the stream, so there we go. Right, again, thank you all. Appreciate you taking the time, and see you on Sunday for the post race. My name's Tom. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.